Welcome. This is the Inner Enlightenment Show, and I'm your host, Lauri Schoenfeld. Thank you so much for those who are joining us live right now, and for those who will be joining us later on the replay. I'm super excited to have a dear friend of mine, Miss LaChelle Adkins, joining me again on the Inner Enlightenment Show. Welcome, LaChelle.
Thank you so much, Lauri, for being here. And I just love our times together, just being able to let my hair down, so to speak, and have those truthful, authentic moments about parenting and just life in general. So I'm happy to be here today.
I really love that too. I was telling my husband last night, he was asking me who's coming on my show today. And I said, LaChelle, and he knows you just because we've had so many real, authentic conversations that I've so enjoyed that I share them with my husband, the things I'm passionate about. I really shared those conversations with him. So he was very excited, like, oh, I like her. I'm like, me too. I like her too.
Awesome. Well, tell him I said thank you.
I sure will. And my daughter was concerned about you again, so I will let her know as well.
Yes.
We have a great conversation today that is important to be talking about all of the time, but even more so now, there's a massive need in discussing, simplifying, and building our foundation and what that looks like. Super excited to be talking to you about this, LaChelle, and what that does for you and how that's had value within your own life. So for those who have never met this beautiful lady before, she is a dear friend of mine. She is a mother of 15 children. Super amazing. She is the owner of America's Supermom. She is an inspirational speaker as well as a wellness coach for family and wellness. And I am just so glad to have your wisdom and your heart here joining us today. Can you share with us a little bit more about who you are for those who missed our last gathering and what you're up to in the world right now?
Yes. So, as you mentioned, my husband and I have 15 children. So that already gets the jaws dropping and mouth open. We do have 10 of them still at home, and 8 of them are currently doing remote learning. A little bit about me, though, is I was raised an only child. So, only child going to a life with 15 children. It was quite an adventure, to say the least. But, I was raised where my mom was one of 12. So she felt education was very important. It was pretty much her key to having that life of prosperity, the right job, right career. And so she really instilled that in me in a young age. And so I was just on that road of being a high achiever, honor roll and seeking that validation and accolades for the things that I was doing. So as I had a family, one, I didn't know what it was like to be a stay-home mom. That was something I longed for because as a kid, my mom worked and she wasn't able to go on field trips or, attend class parties and things of that nature. So that was something that I always wanted. So trying to grasp the balance of, being that stay-home mom and, putting a career, so to speak, on the back burner, that was something that was new for me. I didn't really know how to navigate through it. And so I ended up going through a period of depression. And this depression lasted for 13 years. During that time, I was hospitalized 3 times. And even the hospitalizations were ones that I weren't even noticing what was going on. My husband sought intervention for me. And with that being the case, after that last hospitalization, I just wanted to find out, what were the triggers? What was the pattern? So I went into this journey of self-discovery, stopped watching the news and TV, social media and things like that to really get inside myself and figure out, what are my values? What do I think a mom should look like, a wife should look like, and all these different things. So I created a strategy that helped me to overcome that depression and maintain a life depression free. And from that point, I started coaching other women, helping them with empowerment through group coaching, individual master classes, as well as doing a lot more speaking, because I felt like depression was one of those taboo topics that, we just don't talk about. Everybody kind of briefly touches on it, but we don't really dive into, what are the root causes? How can you overcome it? And that type of thing. So ever since then, I've just been very passionate about sharing that message for women, so that I feel like, even in my case, I'm not on medicine now. I was only on medicine during my hospitalizations, but I just feel like, had a lot of people been more aware of coping strategies and things that they can do that are positive, then it's a road that you may not even necessarily have to go down. So that's a little bit about me.
I love that. And this is actually, LaChelle and I have connected on this topic before, where we relate a lot on the depression journey of going down certain avenues that we think that we need to be a certain type of a person, but feeling like we're just so stuck in this abyss of not being able to find that joy until we started kind of peeling back the layers, as you said, to investigating what are these triggers and the different things underneath the surface. And so I'm excited about this conversation, because simplifying and building our foundation, LaChelle and I have talked about this as well, of foundation being so key to being able to create anything within your life, with family, business, marriage, any form of relationships, and it has to start in the core from within. So can you tell us a few things at the beginning of your journey that were the few first steps that you started of really investigating how to build that foundation from within?
Yeah. That's a great question. I think the first thing was really getting to the core of what really was important to me, because I had done a lot of people pleasing and, checking things off the list of accomplishments, but still was not feeling fulfilled. So something as simple as, I was a stay-home mom, didn't know what that looked like. So, I had to kind of navigate and try to figure that out as I was going, because all my colleagues were career oriented. So I didn't have anybody that I could call up and just get advice from. And then as our family grew, it's like, girl, I can't help you. You got way more kids than I do. So what can I even offer you, right? But something as simple as making sub sandwiches for your kids to eat. I was in this mindset that, I had to cook 3 square meals. If I'm at home, there really is no reason for me to have, a simple meal or a frozen pizza or something like that. Everything had to be, homemade or, freshly made. And so that was a limiting belief, till one day I thought, Subway is making millions of dollars selling sandwiches and chips. So what's wrong with this picture, So really, getting deep and figuring out, what is it that makes me happy? What are my values, And so I think that really is the first step to really kind of clear the noise, So getting off social media, not watching the news and TV, just kind of gave me that opportunity to just really sit and reflect and think about, what kind of mother do I want to be? Yeah, I might be, checking off these boxes and those boxes, but are those the boxes that I want to check off? I remembered that being a stay-home mom was something that was important to me, but of course I was doing good on the outside. I would go to those field trips and everything. And then at home, I'm like a crazy person, because it's like, pick up your shoes, everybody get in line, you got to get in the shower, you're going to bed at this time, crazy, right? So it's all about being well-rounded, the same person for me in the house, outside the house, no matter where I showed up. And I mean, your kids are going to have those moments where, they're going to be themselves. And, you do have to do some training and teaching, and sometimes that is in public. But I think really when there's just a drastic difference, your kids know because they see you at home and then they see you out in public. So for me, the whole thing of wearing mask here, mask there in this certain situation, it was just too much, So I was like, I'm done with the mask. And then they return through the coronavirus, right? So crazy, right?
Just coming full circle.
Right. Absolutely. So I think that first step is really just kind of knowing who you are, that by listening to that inner voice.
Yes. I like too that you pointed out, and I'm going to just mention it again because it was powerful, of how you show up on the outside should correlate to how you show up on the inside. And like also paying close attention to who is watching you. Because if you're showing up two different ways, on the outside, on the inside, at home, your kids are going to be thinking that that's like normalized, that that's something that they're supposed to be doing. And that's what they start becoming and trying to emulate as well. But then also when you're building relationships, whether it's business or friendships, if you have a friend that's starting to see, or a business partner that's starting to see kind of that disconnect, that they're not the same person in the same place, they're going to start really questioning your integrity, the loyalty, like how are they showing up? Are they actually showing up for real here? Or is that just a mask that they're wearing here as well? And so that was powerful. Super powerful. Thank you for sharing.
It really is such a liberating thing because, I just have this philosophy, we used to really do a lot of entertaining, with our kids as they grew up before we kind of got the memo that this is crazy, because it's always feeding people, serving them and all this kind of stuff. And that's a lot of people to be trying to entertain. But, I just got this mindset that it's crazy when, you're having people over, you're doing all this major cleaning, right? And it's like you're cleaning for people that are going to be there for, however amount of time. And then your family lives in chaos. So, we were filming this, I'm doing live stream TV. That's a project that I'm working on now. And, my husband is like always, oh, don't show this or don't show that. And I'm thinking, if it's okay for us to live in it, then it's okay for people to see it. That's just kind of how I am. I've always kind of been that way, not putting on a show with certain things because I feel like that's another thing. It's like, look, if you come in here and 1 minute the house is clean, 5 or 10 minutes later, it might be tore up. My kids come in, everybody takes their shoes off. They throw their backpacks, I mean, that is the house that's lived in, So I think just really being able to understand that, it's when we begin to polish things up and, do these final touches and that final touch, because people look for that kind of thing. But I think part of your ability to influence people and talk to them is really your message, and I really try to really drive that home whenever I do a speaking engagement or something like that, because, don't get caught up in what you're seeing because, depending if it's pre-recorded or live, if it's pre-recorded, the stuff has been edited, polished, and, you're seeing the final cut that they want you to see. And there is no perfection. It's an illusion, right?
Yep. Yes. So. I love that too, how you can apply that to life just in general of like, that comment when if someone has a chronic illness or they're going through a heavy circumstance that other people aren't seeing, people will look at you on the outside and say, you look like everything's great and everything's fine because it appears that way. But we really don't know what's going on behind the surface of anyone, behind the walls of our house or with the internal stuff that we're feeling. People are only typically getting the pieces of what we want to show to gain that validation and that acceptance as well. Do you see that and feel that too?
Yeah. And I think you brought up a good point that just kind of reminds me about, I tell people that, you have to show up for you, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when you think about things, you think about showing up. So, before we did this interview, it's like making sure my kids are either have a snack or whatever, so they're not, interrupting me while I'm having an interview. And I think if you're really conscious and clear about who you are, that energy that you use to show up, you're showing up doing things that matter. So me being intentional with my kids before I get on, rather than the stress of showing up and pretending. See, both ways you're going to be doing work.
Yes.
But if you're pretending, it's like, oh, I have to have that perfect outfit on, or my hair has to be this. And it's just that constant self-doubt, even during the interview. Did I say the right thing? Are they going to be able to remember this? Is this going to go viral or whatever? How many views are we going to get? I mean, crazy stuff that you're thinking about, and you're not even able to be in the moment and intentional and say the things that are really going to matter to the audience, if that makes sense.
Yes, it does. And that brought up something that we talked about before the show that I would love for you to tell the viewers as well. We were talking a little bit about reminders. So here's my little mug. And look, LaChelle has the same one.
Yes. We shop the same places, girl. We'll just let them figure that out, right?
Yes, we do. And LaChelle was mentioning how she has in her house a lot of different little things as she's going about her house that reminds her of that joy piece of really grounding in. Will you show us some of your intentional pieces that you're putting into place throughout your house?
Yeah, so this is like this. That's grateful. I have this, my son got me this. It's like a little box that has affirmations in it. This lighting, I'm sorry.
Oh, there we go.
Okay, there you go.
Got it. Yes.
But they're little cards. There's like 52 of them. So each day I just pick a new one and post it for myself to remind me. Keep my Bible next to me. And just that energy, candles. I have those. It's so funny. You just got to think about, So it's like, if I'm really kind of stressed, it's like, let me just light a candle. It's kind of like, I don't know, it's the trigger to make me feel like I'm in a different place.
Yes.
Right. So I light that candle and go on about my business. But so just having things around that just remind me, because, as we were talking before we push record, that, you're going to have those moments. I have 2 middle school boys that are just on a different plane. We're all coasting along fine when it comes to this remote learning. And they are just like, we got turbulence going on with them. They're doing their own thing and every day's an adventure. So, just reminding myself, I went to this conference over the weekend and the woman was saying, you really are not having a bad day. It's just a bad 5 minutes. And I just thought that is so key because, we have a small moment in time, but we allow that moment to take over our entire day, our entire week, year, month, whatever. So even just this pandemic, in relation to, however old you are, even if this thing lasts for 2 years, just in perspective of the years that you've been around, I mean, this is just a moment in time, but we are, getting frustrated, burning bridges with people and, talking crazy over something that really we don't have any control over.
Yes. Yes. I want to come back to that because I think just that element too of talking about the time right now of different ways we can implement things to focus on, to be grateful for in this moment. And also that are tangible things that we can help support ourselves during this time. I would love to discuss that as well, if you're open to it, because there's a lot.
Absolutely.
Okay. I would love for us to talk about, we talked about the inner core of how we have to start inward as the foundation for home.
Mm-hmm.
What are some tools that you use within your family and business to simplify and build that foundation from the core and extend it outward to your family and your business?
Okay, so the first thing that's just a non-negotiable is self-care. Okay. I'm like, first thing in the morning, I have to have that time for myself. It's just literally like the recording on the airplane. Put your oxygen mask on first before you help other people, because we may think, and this was my thing for years, I thought that I was pouring from a full cup and it was empty, never getting refilled, and so that I think is key, because it just puts you in a different state of mind, when you're able to have that self-care. Another thing is communication, really being able to have those conversations. My husband and I, we had a very, what's the word I want to say? When you have topics that are hard to discuss and one person is like, man, I wasn't ready for that, processing. I'm just very transparent. And for years, I've always kind of bit the bullet. It was like, well, I'm going to take it for the team. And, I know what somebody means. I'm just going to kind of just, try to fix the situation. I'm just not that way anymore. I just feel like, what, I have enough kids to raise. I'm not raising any adults. So there's times when I'm saying things that, just are just open and blunt, and, my husband sometimes has a problem trying to navigate through that, and it's like, I think it's one of those things you just got to rip the Band-Aid off, because if you don't, there's that period of, well, did she mean this or did she mean that? And that indecision will really get you nowhere. You'll be in the same situation for years unless you just make it clear. Because, when you're going on that journey of self-discovery and self-improvement, you have to have an awareness of what your problems are. If I had that situation of being hospitalized 3 times and then I'm like, well, was it because of this or that? And just having that uncertainty, I'd be in the hospital, I don't know how many more times. So it takes that awareness to really tackle the things that need to be tackled and asking yourself the right questions so you can move on from it. So communication is important. And another thing is collaboration. I have been able to really build my business so big. I just can't even begin to put this to even express how much it has grown due to collaboration. So just getting with people that resonate with your mission, your just your objectives, and what you believe in, your values, is so important, because many hands make life work. And so just having people do what their zone of genius is and you do yours, and it's nobody having that competition, but just extending the reach further and further. So I think that has been key too. And then the last thing is just, be patient and lower your standards on some things, right? Because these standards that we have, they're perfection, and that's an illusion. Okay. Because you can't control. I mean, we really barely can control ourselves. That's why we have coaches and accountability partners, because we're not even doing what we're supposed to be doing, let alone having other elements into that goal, that job, or whatever it is that we want to do. So when you lower your standards, that makes it comfortable for you to get started. Because see, the key is not that we're not doing things right, or we don't have enough resources. All these ideas and aspirations don't go places because people just don't get started. Because once you get started, you'll realize that it's totally different than what you thought, because you were thinking from some information you still weren't aware of. Nobody's going to know for sure how it's going to pan out until you do it.
Yes. And it's so interesting how often we halt and stop ourselves because we're overthinking of all the possible scenarios where things could go wrong. And they're not even close 90% of the time to actually when we show up. Yes, there's a fear there, sure. But it's nothing usually like what we think it is. It's just we're carrying all of that as our truth, but that fear is really not our truth. It's letting us know we're afraid and to feel it, but it's not the truth and what's behind all of the, thoughts of I'm going to fall off the stage or, whatever it is.
Right. Yeah.
Ava asked a great question. She said, did you voluntarily go to the hospital or did someone suggest you to go the first time?
So all 3 times my husband sought intervention for me. So yeah. So that's why now I am on a mission that I call Smile for Wellness, because I didn't see the signs. So now I'm like, there needs to be something that's proactive. I came up with my strategy after I was depressed. But for people who want to figure out what's going on before it escalates to that, I have a movement. It's called the SMILE movement. And SMILE stands for your sleep, your mood, inner voice, laughter, and energy. So if you're just keeping up with those 5 areas, that can help you when it comes to being able to notice what some of your triggers may be that can help you get on the right path.
Ooh, I just got like the chills as you said that, and I'm processing actually through all the times that I've had triggers of just having those tangible tools of finding the laughter, making sure that you get that sleep, checking in with your mood. Like we don't really think about it, but really those few little pieces are very crucial to the foundation of building everything else.
So true.
In your life and platform. That's fabulous.
Yeah.
So I would love, sorry, I have like a little tickle that's just hanging out.
That's okay.
So with the time right now in 2020, I think it's so important, as we talked about before. This is an important topic just in general, but now more than ever. Really figuring out, a lot of people feel very confused on how do I even start building a foundation in a world that's so uncertain that I don't know what I'm going to be doing right now, or I don't know what's going to happen next. And you already had quite a few amazing tips previous that they can apply to the time right now as well. But do you have anything specifically, things that you have changed this year with this time that have really helped you support the unique energy and the different overwhelm that's coming in as well right now?
I think really the main thing is to really know who you are. Yeah. I really lost myself, as I mentioned before, I'm wearing different masks. My husband's also a pastor. He was an officer in the military. So, you have these functions with leadership that you feel like you have to be, performing at a certain level or looking a certain way or answering a question a certain way. And really, if you really kind of take some notice of these things, it's all self-perpetuated. It's things that you're saying and nobody else is saying these things, but you are just piling it on higher and higher. So I think the first thing is really knowing who you are. I really attached a lot of my worth and validation to these different roles that I played. So I was on this teeter-totter or roller coaster, however you want to say it, up and down based on other people really validating me for doing the things that I did. And if they didn't do it, then, I'm going around, feeling like I didn't do something right. And just, thinking back on it now, it's just really crazy. It's just, there are issues that come up, if you were raising your kids and, they just had a bad day and, you can really isolate that. Okay, well, what was said and how did you respond? Okay, well, that might not have been the best way to do it. We talk them through it, but when it's ourselves, it's like, how could I be so stupid? Why did I do that? And then it's just perpetuating even a bigger story that's not true. Because then we're like, last week I did the same thing. And, we begin to build on this negativity instead of something positive. So I think really being able to know who you are, like I said, I'm able to embrace, hey, you know what? I take ownership for everything. So if you come in my house and there's dishes in the sink, oh, well, that can mean that my kids haven't done their chores, so I can either face the consequence of that, or I could be so concerned with everything being perfect that I'm wearing myself out, going around doing the things that my kids aren't doing to put on this facade that our house is perfect and every kid does what they're supposed to do.
Mm-hmm.
Not doing it. Not doing it, so now it's like, and that used to be my life for so long. And it's like, even now it's so funny because, and kids just are this way, we raise them to be very selfish. They cry, we just at their beck and call. So they grow up thinking the world revolves around them. And then we're wondering why, as parents, when they get to be teenagers and, young adults, why do they always ask for this? I mean, why do they think the world revolves around them? Well, we perpetuated that monster, And so now I'm at a place where it's like, what have you done to contribute? And I'm asking them, it's like, they used to always just, oh, mom, make this for dinner and do that. And now it's like, okay, if I make that, what's your contribution? Are you going to, peel the potatoes? Are you going to slice the veggies? I mean, there was a time I would do it all. And now it's just like, I'm not doing that. We have a lot of people and everybody can contribute. What sense does it make for one person to do this and wear themselves out?
Mm-hmm. I'm shaking my head in super agreement because I did that with my 3. Like, I remember looking back, I'm thinking, why? I mean, I wore certain outfits around certain people. I said certain things around specific people because I was people pleasing all the time. My house was immaculate, or I'd never invite anyone over, which means even in my perfectionist mode, no one still came over because it never was clean, even though I was doing it for hours.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So you can easily go down that train of, I have to make everything perfect, which is a beautiful statement with what you said. Ties in that none of us are perfect. And every single one of us are different, and we're supposed to be different moms. We're not all supposed to be the same type of woman, mom, leader, friend. Like, there's a reason why we're all different and made in a beautifully different light. And the more that we try to be like everyone else, we're just going to be miserable. And so just really tapping in, like you said, to who am I and what is important to me? And so really turn that into your business and your family and everything that you are. Thank you so much for sharing that. That was beautiful.
Yeah. And I think also the whole thing is really even realizing, what systems you have in place or the way that you were raised. I really would have so much anxiety around, the whole household and chores. And it's like I'm telling the kids to put their stuff certain places and, it never is the way that it's supposed to be. And, I just really went into deep prayer about that one day. And the Lord was like, you were an only child. So you never really had a system. So, to even hold yourself to a standard of someone who was raised with brothers and sisters or, had a large family, you can't compare yourself. So it is a learning process. It is the admitting, hey, I don't know this. What can I do to come up with a system that's going to work, and being willing to do that? I mean, that's the same thing right now. A lot of people are reinventing themselves. You've been doing whatever field of vocation for years, but now that's eliminated. So now you have to do something you don't know. And even though you have the maturity and the age, that still doesn't transfer the knowledge if you've never done it. So you have to be willing to ask those questions to get that insight to pivot to a different area.
Ooh, yeah. Self-compassion, adaption, and changing that cycle, which needs to start with asking those questions. What is not working? That's beautiful. I'm reading Ava's comment. If my apartment is not immaculate and so my friends don't want to visit, then I don't want them as friends. I want friends that say, Ava, I would like you, or I would like to help you too. Same, yes.
So true.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was, but I've always been that way growing up. What you see is what you get. So there will be times my friends would come over, and this was when I was younger as a kid, and it'd be like, hey, you know what? My room is not clean or something. Oh, that's all right. I'll help you clean it up. I had this one friend who she just had to be camera ready. So we would be at her house and just having fun, entertaining. And if people came by that hadn't called and she wasn't camera ready with her makeup and stuff, she just would ignore the door, wouldn't even answer. So I don't know if it was me being an only child and longing for that companionship. Mm-hmm. It's like, I'm not going to let anything get in the way of me having someone over. And if it's a messed up room, oh, well, I'm just going to tell them how it is. And, I'm still going to have a friend. I'd rather have that companion than let this situation. And a lot of times you're saying, oh, my room's not clean. And people come over and they're like, well, what's the problem? Because your idea of stuff being a mess and other people, they're like, this isn't even that bad. You just gotta, and sometimes if it's a pile of clothes, they'll just move them over on the floor and sit down and go on to the next thing, So yeah.
Yeah. It's funny how you mentioned how everyone's upbringing, definitely it shifts how people show up. Because even with my upbringing, my mom always wanted the house perfect and nobody came over. So that's what I saw. I thought that was normal until I started having friends that didn't invite me to things. And I was feeling like, well, why am I not being invited? And I had to really be honest with myself of, well, you're not letting anyone into your space. So, and taking that ownership of people have asked to be with you, but you don't want to have them over unless things are perfect, which means no one's ever over. So what part's yours here? What are you doing to not invite your friends in? Mm-hmm. You do a gratitude journal, LaChelle, or any form of writing that kind of helps now, but also just before this time?
Yeah, I have a lot of journals, and really the journals that I keep now are just writing down ideas and things that I want to implement. I just feel like I'm now kind of in that space of, with my visual cues, that's something that really keeps me grounded, just like the one I showed, being grateful. Just having those moments of being like, hey, you know what? This is not as bad as it seems, light a candle, do whatever you got to do to kind of snap out of it. But a lot of my writing now is, content, things I want to implement, ideas that I have, and that type of thing. But yeah, writing is key. I do it every day. And I'm always with interviews, people know that that's me with a book in my hand, okay? And a pen.
Always, my big black purse has a wallet, gum or peppermints, and about 8 different notebooks with a whole stack of pens, because,
Yeah, gotta have them.
Follow your heart and have your notebook and pen, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Always. We always do on the Inner Enlightenment Show an inner child question.
Okay.
So we're moving it over to your inner child question.
Okay.
Number 1. Dun, dun, dun. What is one of your favorite things that you like to do with your family?
The favorite thing really is to just curl up and watch movies on Netflix. I love it when it rains and we do that. But, there's just something about, one, is so many of us. So to see everybody, in one space, I mean, that visual for me is like, wow, all these babies came out of me. That's one of the things that I think. But they're quiet, they're content, and just you feel safe and happy. And that's just one of my things is curling up and watching a movie.
Ooh, I love that. That just got me. I love the snuggles and like just
Yes.
yes. Yes, yes.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Number 2.
Okay.
What is your personal favorite way for self-care for yourself?
There's a lot of them. Okay, so I love writing and journaling. Another one is reading. Reading books, listening to podcasts, any kind of research. I love that. And then just having, the quiet time. Just not really having an agenda, but just being in a space to where I can listen, because I think sometimes we feel like we have to fill time up with always doing something, being productive. But, when you get up in the morning and you just have that time for self-care, you allow life to happen and you to be a part of it, and part of that is just having that time to reflect because so much of that I just missed out on. I didn't even know half the time what day it was, or, I just didn't have that time to think. People could ask me, well, what's your favorite food? I couldn't even tell them, because I was not in that mode of thinking or reflecting at all. So sometimes just being quiet is also a good thing.
Mm-hmm. Ava asked, how do you pick a movie with 15 people? I have a hard enough time with just my husband.
We all like pretty much the same thing. When our kids are together, now they might, if we give them an option, then we have to go between this person saying this. But we love Home Alone, any of the Home Alone series. They like the Polar Express. Really, it's around the holidays that we really get into these moments. So there's just classics that we watch all the time. And so that really nips that in the bud. So they'll be like, if my husband's like, if you guys can't decide, I'm going out of here. Well, they love for daddy to be there too. So anything they can do to keep it smooth and everybody's on the same page, you don't have to worry about that. You just threaten that you're going to be out of there.
Yes. Great questions, Ava. Thank you so much for the comments. Really appreciate that. Third question for you.
Okay.
That was the bell. What is your favorite thing about 2020 that you're most grateful for?
So many things with that too. The first thing I would say is meeting you. Okay. We just would not have crossed paths, I know, because there is just this intentionality, even with being online, following up. I mean, I can only go back in our history. We've had things that happen that kind of mess with our schedules, but it's just that thing of following up and staying consistent and doing those things. And I think it's just how my world has become so much richer from people like you that I have met and being able to meet them all across the world. I think that's one thing. The next thing is realizing how much we have in common. So even when I meet people overseas, we are all joined together during this pandemic and it is turning everybody's life upside down. So some of the things that we used to separate us, it's now like, oh, that's not that big of a deal. Oh, you don't speak English really well. That's not your first language. Well, let's figure out, let's take a little time and, make our call a little longer so I can figure out what you're saying or whatever. It's not even anything like that. We are really open to seeing how we can collaborate, in different ways. Also, just the time that I've spent with my family. It's so funny. This was the first year that I was, going to have my kids in school all day. So, I always did the joke. It's like I'm an empty nester by day because I still had a kindergartner. So they go to school and then boom, I've only had like 6 months, and then March, they all come home and I'm like, well, what's wrong with this picture? I was looking forward to this, but it has just been a joy to be with my kids and really get recentered, around family. I think a lot of that was lost. And even though my boys play a lot of video games, hey, I'm just trying to recover out of that to, really keep putting the limits on them. But there's so many things we were able to do together as a family, from having talent shows to reading together, watching movies together, doing s'mores, just being creative with different things we can do around the house. So I don't know what their memory's going to be. And I try to do a lot of fun things because, they're going to be telling this story to their children, so just thinking about the times that we were able to bond as a family, I think that is really, and then just not feeling like I'm missing out on anything. Normally it's like, if you're on vacation, you still feel like, man, I might be missing something at home or wherever, some other place. But when everything shut down, it's like this certain kind of peace that you could really relax. You didn't have to think about missing anything. So I think I was really grateful for that too.
Thank you so very much for being here with us, LaChelle. I just absolutely adore you and appreciate your time and your heart of sharing all that you did with me and the viewers today. So thank you so much. We're all blessed to be here with you.
Oh, you're so welcome.
Is there any last? I know, and this is why I know we can always catch each other, and we'll just chit chat and have more of these, which I'm super, super excited and looking forward to. Mm-hmm. Is there any last advice that you would like to give the viewers?
Yes, I would say that everybody needs to look forward. Mm-hmm. Don't think about what happened in the past, be intentional in the moment. But also, just like a farmer, a farmer has to plant seeds. You can't just think about a positive outlook and not do any of the work necessary to reap a harvest. So now is a good time, even though things may look dismal, you're reinventing yourself, don't forsake the opportunities that you have to build, to create, because things are going to get better. And you want to be in a better position for your family, for your friends, and just in your industries, whatever business you're in, thinking about planting those seeds, because right now it's a great time to plant. The harvest is really good for that. And, it's just a matter of time before we get out of this. So you want to be able to have something to look forward to later on down the road. So that's what I would say.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. And where can they find you if they have any questions for you after the show?
Any social media platform. You can reach out to me as America's Supermom or LaChelle Adkins, either one. And I do also have a YouTube channel, which, you've been on. We've interviewed before. And I have a podcast. So I forgot to say that. I do have a podcast.
Yes. And cheers, LaChelle, with our
all right, cheers.
We must cheer. Oh, okay. Okay. That's pretty close. On point. Cheers.
Thank goodness I'm not a pilot, right?
It's one step at a time before you find navigation, guys. We can do this.
Right.
And for all of you that joined us today, thank you so much for being here with us in the discussion. We're so grateful for you. And remember, as you go about your day, to find the things that are working within your life and look around you for the many things to be grateful for. We will see you at 3:00 p.m. Mountain Standard Time right here next Monday with Michael Jensen. Have a beautiful day and take care of yourselves. Bye, everyone. Thank you, LaChelle.
You're welcome.